Dr. Jazz.
John and John.
Wow! So the entire band. Wow! The quartet.
The entire quartet. Yeah. We just had a concert in Hudson, and then we recorded the next day in Hudson Valley in Rhinebeck.
Like another Dusk project, or?
Yeah, we recorded Matt's second album. He wants to do a trilogy.
Oh wow! Super.
You know, he will do a trilogy of albums with this band. So the first one was Dust. This one will be called Ash, like from ashes.
Yeah.
And the last one he wants to call it Mist.
Mist. Okay. So, super. Yeah. It's such a beautiful band. I love that group. You know.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty amazing to play with these people. It felt very good after more than a year to play with these folks because they're so intuitive and we have such a good chemistry.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, and especially you and Matt sound beautiful together, and to hear Randy and John play together, I love that. They're amazing, like so elastic what they do underneath you, and it's like. Whew.
I was just actually listening to the rough mixes. Everybody played, and we all have like histories going back. You know, it's not only me and Matt. Matt and Randy actually go back. 30 years.
With
his
Joe
father.
Morris, right? Oh yeah, or even with his father. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, Randy was the original drummer and the drummer of that group with Joe Maneri, and then John Hebert played with Matt a lot, and then he played with me a lot. John, on different other projects. He's on the Enesco project. He's with Elevation, so we all have a common history, so to say. So that makes it always much easier. The chemistry is much better. It's like it's like we picked up. I remember because we got the gig. It was an afternoon gig, and getting from New York up to Hudson was a nightmare because of the traffic. It was Columbus Day weekend.
Oh no!
And Matt's plan was to rehearse because he wrote a lot of music for the next day recording. So he wanted to play the entire music that we were going to record, like it's done.
Yeah.
Yes. If you play the music before, well, because of the traffic, we got there. The concert was at 4 p.m. We got there at 3:10.
Oh man!
So forget about. I also got a speeding ticket that on top of it. So now I have to pay a speeding ticket. So so we didn't get to try any of Matt's new music at the concert. So it was mostly improvised. And of course, none of us brought the old book because we said we're gonna rehearse the new material.
Oh, shit.
There's some. I mean, we play a lot improvised, but there's a book like the album has.
It's a storyline.
Yeah, there's tunes there. So we didn't bring the old books, which we knew, but sort of knew, but and so it was all improvised the whole concert, but and the rehearsal happened after the people left. We did a little, went over a little the music, and what I want to say is that it felt so great to play with these people. Just not new music, not reading, just play the whole concert. It was like we picked up from where we left it. It's
that's nice.
So that was really nice. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the album, and I heard the mixes, they sound amazing. Matt arranged a Brahms piece.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. So it's intense. Yeah.
When was the first time you guys played together? I mean, I know that Transylvanian concert was probably one of the first records you did, right? Or like, that was okay? The ECM.
Me and Matt.
But you go way back, right? Or
Matt. Actually, there's the stories like this. Matt was part of Enesco Reimagined.
Yeah.
That's where I first started working with him. That's in 2009.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And initially, actually, for that project, I wanted a cello player.
Ah, okay.
I did not have in mind viola, and I did not have in mind Matt at all. But the cello player couldn't make the tour. Well, the concert at the festival. The cello player was Erik Friedlander.
Friedlander, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So and then Nashit, who was the original drummer, who ended up not being able to do it either, he said, "You should call Matt Maneri. He's great. He should be, he would be ideal for this project." So by chance, Matt was a substitute.
Oh wow!
We keep laughing
man.
about that. Yeah. So we kept, so I called him, and he was open, and it was little rehearsal for that as well. And I remember, because we didn't have time to rehearse it, the music was rather complex, Enesco, Georgia, Enesco music. So
sure.
There were parts where like, here the drums and bass do an intro, or piano and viola do an intro. We never rehearsed those, obviously. So this, we did it. First time we played duo was in the big festival, in the Enesco festival, at one of the biggest of halls there in Bucharest. And when we were supposed to play this piece, it was the third sonata for violin and piano, one of his famous.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the most renowned, the third violin and piano sonata in the Romanian folk character. That's the subtitle. So that's where I wrote piano and viola intro. So we were suddenly, full venue, full house, like big venue. And so we started playing, but the chemistry was so good. And we have that on our album, because that concert ended up being the album. So the chemistry was so good with me and Matt that I remember at dinner after the concert, Matt and I said, we have to do something as duo. So just because from there, like, we never played before together as duo, but we played on that concert because it was like an introduction to the written arranged material with the whole band. And it felt so good that we immediately said we want to continue as duo, and that's how the duet came that ECM put out.
Yeah. How did the story with ECM happen, actually, with Manfred? I mean,
we were on tour with another project in Europe with Matt and I, with a guy that does electronica, and we did some. It was a project with the video, actually. We were playing sound music to footage from Tarkovsky, the Andrei Tarkovsky's movies, the Russian director.
Yeah.
And there was a videographer, and then there was an electronica musician, and us too. So we did that tour. We played some film festivals, and then we had some days off, and I booked a concert in an opera house in the midst of Transylvania. Beautiful.
Oh wow, man!
Turn of the century secession style opera house with an amazing piano, and again the magic was there. I mean, so this is what happened. So I remember we were there just to play the gig, and the sound was killing, and great piano and all of that. And this guy comes in. I'm from the radio, local radio. Do you mind if I record? And I said, sure. We just want,
sure, yeah.
the recording. So he recorded it, and we got the recording, and we knew it was good because we felt good at the concert. We knew the recording was good, but then when we listened, we realized it's really good. So I said, we should put this out. So we said, okay, who should we try to contact? Well, let me, the people that we work with, but it was also ECM, because Matt worked with ECM. I have not worked with them. I was thinking more like Clean Feed or Sunnyside,
sure.
Or one of the labels that I was currently working. And Matt said, yeah, let's, maybe send it to ECM as well. So the first ones they answered was ECM, actually. Says, we want to do it.
Wow.
So it was like that.
It's quite rare that he accepts.
Sunnyside hesitated. But then, I said, so I'm not sure, Francois. I said, we're not sure if this is the right fit for the label. But then Manfred said, yeah, I want it. So we said, okay, wonderful. So when do you want to record? Because we knew that Manfred likes to record himself. And he said, no, I want this material.
That's rare.
You have it? Yeah. So I said, yeah, sure. So that's how that came about.
Wow,
You know?
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Quite an amazing. And of course, after the release, the album got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Being on ECM and all, and all the fancy press, the major, not only the jazz press. So we got to tour. We were still touring before the pandemic started with the duo. For 10 years, we toured all over the world with this duo. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, this was unusual. I mean, unexpected. We from Jerusalem to Buenos Aires to all of Europe to all of entire America. I think we did hundreds and hundreds of concerts with this duo. Literally, like from small places in Arizona to the usual suspects, from London to. But again,
Sure.
Actually, I think I've played more countries with this duo than with any other project of mine. So,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and we keep trying to do a follow-up since then. So,
Well, looking forward to that, man. So but
yeah,
you're playing with other people together also makes you like develop your language even further, I think, and which is beautiful. Like in all these different constellations you guys play with, and you and Matt. And I wanted to ask you about one collaboration. I talked with Matt about that with Evan Parker. How did Evan? He's like one of the most amazing, let's call free modern jazz, whatever you want to call it, musicians in Europe. How did he influence your chemistry, and how did that work for you playing with him? I mean, how did it happen actually also?
Well, so to say one thing first, the tour I did with Evan was the hardest tour of my life.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm talking about music, not about the not the nightmare of touring.
Can you expand on that? Yeah, sure.
Yes, I will. I will never forget this. Every night I was finished after. Wow. I have never played a tour that was completely improvised, and with somebody of the stature of Evan, who's so uncompromising, like in terms of playing really in the moment and really fully improvise, and really there's Evan, especially in the past decades, 2 decades, I would say, he really is devoid of any structure, was trace of a structure or melody or you hear. So the whole thing is very deep, is very intense from this standpoint. And then just playing night after night. For me, who I did not, Matt and Evan obviously had this experience a lot, but I never did a tour with completely improvised music like that, completely. Like with Dust, we have some tunes, and then we know we can play stuff. With Matt, I can go out, and we literally, by this time, we start and playing, and then the tunes come in, and we rarely say, oh, let's play that tune from the album, from the ECM album. But so we can play improvise, but there's always pieces that come. Same with Dust, was maybe half and half. There's always pieces that come. We Matt call, oh, let's do now this after we play 30 minutes. But with Evan, there was no piece, no idea, no 4 bars, no motive ever again. So for me, it was very intense because I also wanted to give it all, and learn, and it was such a chance. I mean, we did a whole tour. Speaking of that album, there's a second album with Evan that we have to put out.
Oh, really? Oh, man. Wow.
Yeah, we just never got around to do it. There's one, I think it's even better than the first one because it's so intense, because it's done on the road. So the first album, the album that we did was like this. I think sometimes in 15, 16, the British Council in Bucharest asked me to do something with a British musician.
Ah, okay.
So when I was, I said, okay, well, the one guy that I would love to play with, I mean, there's few of them that from England that I would love to play, you know. But at that moment, the one guy that I would love to play with would be Evan Parker. And since we have, you know, we have an organization that had the budget to do it.
Yeah, that's an easier.
Why don't you invite Evan here? I think he was once in Romania during the communist era in the late 80s. And it would be amazing. And that's how and Matt was there. We were on tour. So I asked, okay, so I'm on tour with Matt with a duo. I think it would be ideal if we have this duo that it's known, that we invite Evan Parker for a concert at a theater. So that's how we first played. And then together, and we felt very good, very nice. But we were playing I remember that concert, Matt and I brought in some ideas, some little things on paper. And they worked out nice, but we realized that we should play differently with Evan. So then Evan came to New York, and he did a week at the Stone, and he called us. He wanted to do a gig with us.
Oh wow!
And when we did that, then we said, why don't we, since you're here, why don't we go in the studio and record something? And he said yes, and that's how the album came. You know.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And then when the album came, then we did a tour in Europe. I remember we flew to Europe from Buenos Aires. We were on tour in Brazil and Argentina, and we flew to what's the capital of Belgium? Brussels.
Brussels, yeah.
Yes, we flew. We flew to Brussels. That was the crazy fall. So we did. I think that was the craziest fall of all, because I did a tour. We went to Brazil, then we went to Argentina, then we flew and did the tour with Evan. Several countries throughout Europe, like a lot. We played Porto Jazz Days at Casa de Musica, some fest, and then after that, the next day after that, we flew to Phoenix, Arizona, and started a tour in the South of America. We kept going and going with Matt. That was like,
man.
So it was like a month and a half, South America, Europe, and I remember flying from where was the last gig? I don't remember. Maybe we flew to Seattle and then to Phoenix. So from cold Europe, we ended up in the desert. Yeah. It was like, so we were all with coats and everything, because it was November, but there it was warm, and so it was quite an intense fall. I remember that, especially now after after the pandemic put everything in question marks. How could we do all that? But the tour was quite amazing, and playing with Evan was quite amazing. And there is a concert recording very well done with that trio that's very intense and different than the album that we want to release. We just never got around to do it. So we will release it because the music is very good and we want to document.
Sure, that. Definitely. No, it's beautiful. I love what you're doing. When I check your discography and the records I have, it's like you're doing your own thing and then you're collaborating. I love that with European musicians also. Like, I've spoken to Matt about the Transylvanian folk songs, and you collaborated with one of my favorite artists ever, John Surman. Speaking of English guys. And
mine too. Ours too.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the most underrated guys, even, like, if I dare to say that, like, especially in the States, maybe not so, should be known more. But how did the story with John then happen with Surman? Like the same kind of with Evan, or did you have John already in mind? Like,
well, we wanted him.
Oh, okay.
So there's, if you probably know, in Europe we have this thing called the European Capital of Culture. So each year, 2 cities I think get to be designated. So in 2018, one city in Romania won the title, Timișoara.
Timișoara,
and so the people that I used to work there with for just concerts, they are a very good organization, Jazz Updates. They were getting involved with this capital of culture, and says we would like to develop a more serious project, something that is connected to the area here. And I know that you're interested in the folk music of your own country, because I did an album with Elevation, Songs from Afar, that touched a little on that. And then years before, I did an album that's very few people know because the label went out of existence. It was a Norwegian label, Jazzaway. I did an album with Sam Newsom.
Yeah, the soprano saxophone player. Yeah, sure.
Yes. So I did an album with Sam Newsom and Alex Harding, and two Romanian musicians, and Wheeler Dyson on drums, where we arranged some Romanian folk songs, Sam and I. So there was throughout the past 10, 15 years, there was an interest of mine in the folk music of my native country. So when these people in Timișoara asked me to do something, and they said, we would like to throw the idea of doing something with the field recordings of Bartók that Bartók did in the area. Because Bartók did the biggest collection of Transylvanian Romanian folk music. Even today, it's what he did. It's still his collection. It's the biggest one.
Wow.
And it's the biggest one of everything he did, like including the Hungarian ones.
Wow.
Or he collected, he collected in Slovenia, he collected Northern Africa and Turkey. The folk songs of Romania, he loved them. It's the biggest one. Like, he collected over 3,400 folk songs over 9 years.
Seriously?
He published 5 volumes, each one of 600 pages.
Wow. Didn't know that.
It's called Romanian folk music. And it was, first one was published in 1911. He collected this between 1909 and 1917. He caught at it actually the Spanish flu. That was started. And he did he did because I researched a lot. He did like over 20 field trips, each one like 2-3 weeks in Transylvania, and he learned Romanian perfectly. He transcribed the lyrics.
Wow.
He learned how to write and to speak Romanian. So he had a passion for this music all the way to his last months of life in New York, when he was still annotating the collection. He was still working on this. He loved. I understand why. There's some areas in Transylvania that at the time where he recorded actually, and then did the field recordings, were so isolated that the music was very untouched by outside influences.
Yeah.
And he says that Romanian folk music, it's in Transylvania. He only collected in Transylvania, not in the southern part. It's truly unique because it kept its ancient forms. A lot of the Hungarian music, a lot of the Central European music, all got mixed, influenced migration.
Yeah.
Yes, so much less. So he was very interested in the Romanian folk music, and that's why he composed a lot of his compositions bear this influence, like from the Transylvanian dances and all of that. So he collected over 3,400, and we picked 20, and 11 ended up on the album.
Yeah.
So when these folks in Timișoara, this organization, asked me to do something, I knew I wanted to do something with Matt, because Matt has such an appetite to playing folk material. He knows what to do. And then we said, well, who would we like? Well, we would dream to have John Surman, because he has, he's one of the few European jazz musicians that they on their own music, they dealt with. I mean, John Surman did with old British music and Celtic music, and the other guy that did it, we thought also about him, Garbarek. He also, but for some reason, for some reason, Matt knew John, and he did not know Gerald. So we wrote to John, and John was nice enough to come for 9 days in Timișoara. 9
wow,
days we stayed
man.
together.
Wow, that's beautiful.
We developed this tune. We did a few workshops. We worked on the tunes. He brought his baritone, which he doesn't do anymore because he's too much with, but we asked for the baritone, and he said, damn, you guys, you made me do bring the baritone. I haven't done this in like 15 years, but, we were lucky because we had the, commitment. So the organization booked a second seat for the baritone and all of these things that normally we can't do. So,
sure. Yeah.
And it was one, we were staying in one place. We did 2 concerts, one in Timișoara and one in Bartok's birthplace, which is near Timișoara, because Bartok was born in what is today Romania, in a place called St. Nicolae Mare. We did a second concert there at the local castle. His house doesn't exist anymore, and the concert in Timișoara was recorded and ended up being the album. But that's how this came about, and it was, I can tell you this, because we don't usually have the chance to work like this. Having the opportunity to be 9 days
with someone,
John, and being put in a nice hotel in a beautiful city and just work on great material,
not travel, also just be there.
Exactly. It was like a dream come true. So we became friends and, all of that, with John. And John is a killer guy. He has such a sense of humor, it's like, so since then we keep wanting to tour. And because after the album got released and it got all the attention and
and then COVID came,
so we got invitations to all of the nice festivals like London, Barcelona, Berlin. We couldn't do any of them, so and then John didn't feel well for this year, so he canceled he had some back problems, so he canceled his entire year this year, and we are hoping now to start playing next year. We have some offers and get the trio on the road,
Oh man, wow.
We only played back then, and the music is so nice. And I remember because we recorded the second concert as well, and the music is so different because these tunes all lend themselves to play them differently every night. The arrangements we did were minimal. Exactly to allow these great musicians, John and Matt and I arranged both to sort of take it further. So I know being on the road would be amazing because each night would be different, so, and playing with John. Oh man, it was so easy from the beginning.
The music sounds so beautiful. That would be a nice project, man. John is rarely also on the road, in Europe. Here it's so hard to see him live these days. I mean, even before the COVID,
well, before COVID, he was actually all over doing major festivals. I mean,
like here in my part, like in Austria, rarely came to Austria these years, or Slovenia, not even, but like maybe England.
I mean, I don't know exactly.
Yeah, sure. But would be nice. I mean, to see this band live. I mean, that would be killing. I mean, really.
we just even like this summer we got invited to that festival in Intone Festival, which is in the mountains.
Intone. Intone. That would be beautiful. Dierbach.
And we couldn't do it, and I told the guy, well, we can come, me and Matt, or I can come with my duo with Abraham. He says, no, I want the trio with John.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Next year then.
Next year.
So this was, it was
beautiful.
It was a particular what's the word, messed up thing, this whole COVID, and then it stopped a lot of the things that we planned to do, so
I mean, let's hope you guys make it. It would be nice to see this band live. I told Matt already, I love this record. It's so beautiful because it's so special. Hearing John with American, I mean, you know, you're from Romania, but like it's like a mix, you know, like it's a special project. It's really unique. I think it's
we feel the same. I feel the same.
Yeah.
It's you know, and John loves it. So you know, so it's. I'm just hoping we can get back to play a little. You know?
Fingers crossed.
I mean, I've done since last year 4 or 5 concerts. I didn't. So you know what that means for us.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It was, you know, it was particularly difficult for me because I had some medical issues. I had a surgery, so that also stopped me. You know, so on top of the whole madness with the COVID and stuff, you know. Yeah, can you imagine how we crave to play with John after not
sure.
playing at all?
All you can do now is put on that record. They're like, man, we did amazing. And it's like, hoping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, Lucian, I just want to ask you one thing. You know, you were raised in Romania in the communist times, and well, me also still in Yugoslavia, you know, under Tito, and you were Ceausescu times. So we're, you know, you're slightly older than me, but we kind of know the idea what it was. Although you guys, of course, had it way worse than we did, I think. But how did you stumble upon jazz in Romania? How did that story with you happen, actually? Because it must have been really a rare thing. Or how was the deal, like in late 70s, beginning of the 80s, jazz-wise? I mean,
so it was. It wasn't something that I expected. It wasn't, in a way, it wasn't supposed to happen, especially in that climate. I mean, you know, jazz and former communist countries, they had a difficult relationship. Sometimes it was against, it was banned legally, it was criminalized, and then they realized, oh, it has nothing to do. But still, in Romania in particular, we were out of the circuit. Yeah. So there was an opening in 1971, a couple of years, end of the 60s, when Romania was much more open, the regime. And we had all the greats coming through, from
really?
Ellington to Ornette Coleman to Charles Lloyd with Gerald. Yes, they came, and there's some archival footage there, Monk and you name it. But this was like 3-4 years. And then again, the whole thing closed up as the regime would become more authoritarian and more dictatorship. But there was a very small community of people who loved this music. And as I was growing up, I had no idea about jazz at all. But my father had a lot of the great, what you would call today American music R&B. Mm-hmm. So he had a lot of Ray Charles. He loved him some Aretha Franklin. So this was immediately, you know, a connection to the great source, to put it this way. You know, I mean, Ray Charles is a killer piano player.
Sure, the arrangements, you know, and everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. So you know, it's amazing. So there was, and then I was like dabbling in a little like rock thing, and then I can't even remember, how did I listen? Oh, I do remember now. So I think I must have been 14 or so, and there was a jazz listening session at the students' center.
Oh wow!
Where they would, you know, they would go in and have like listening sessions. It was like a very small community, you know, group of people that loved jazz. And I remember, I think, going there, and that's when I first hear this music, and I didn't have any clue what's with this. I didn't understand it a lot. But then they played, and this will stay for me. And this is what actually made me be more curious about it and pursue. They played music from a South African player, piano player that is still with me. Dollar Brand was his name at the time.
Yeah.
Now it's Abdullah Ibrahim.
Abdullah Ibrahim, yeah.
Yeah. and that music went straight to me. I mean, Abdullah Ibrahim, I know now, and we know now, he's considered one of the greatest jazz pianists and one of the greatest composers in jazz. You know, the way he writes, and he's loved throughout the world.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the few, you know this, he's one of the few cats that in jazz that had such a large audience, it's almost crossover.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. True.
I mean, you go. I remember I was touring in 2018 with Alex Harding for our duo, and Alex played with him, and we had a day off, and he said, "Would you like to meet Abdullah?" Because Alex played with him. I would love to meet. He's my hero, and I'm even in one of my compositions from my first albums in Romania ended up in his book, in his discography, because I dedicated and I picked up a motive from one of his tunes, and the guy that wrote the discography contacted the label. So there was a little history around my passion for Abdullah Ibrahim. So I remember we played a small club, and Abdullah Ibrahim was playing the Michigan Theater in Ann Arbor, which is 3,000 seats. It was packed.
Sure.
Now
yeah.
you know the States.
Oh, sure.
Who gets this? Keith Jarrett, Herbie, and
the big ones. Yeah.
The big ones. So Abdullah Ibrahim, you know, is such a great composer, and no wonder he's so loved everywhere and so successful. So his music touched me from the first moment. His piano playing, I consider him one of the greatest solo pianists in jazz. You know, among the first 5, 6, 10. Sure. You know, sure. He also has such a large solo discography
and a unique language also.
And a unique language. You know, so when I heard that, then I asked, well, who can tell me more about this? Where can I find more? And they pointed me to a guy in Cluj who became sort of a mentor. So this guy is a structural engineer, but he's also an amateur jazz pianist with no career or no outlets to play, because you didn't have pretty much where to play. I mean, there was one festival, but in Romania, but he was not part of the professional group. He had a different life, but I have rarely seen somebody so dedicated and so passionate about this. And he was one of the greatest jazz collectors in Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and one of the most knowledgeable, because he won a Voice of America contest, knowing all the Voice of America had a contest on radio identifying who was playing and what and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And he won one of these.
Wow.
And they invited him to America, and then the whole security, the secret police arrested him, and why are you invited to America?
Bizarre.
You know, in the midst of the communists. So, and he had an over 2,000 LP collections. Wow. And he corresponded with some of these people to get the LPs. With Bley, he has letters from Bley, and
really, LPs, oh man,
dedicated. Yeah. So I had the luck of being introduced to this music by somebody that was really knowledgeable. And immediately from Abdullah Ibrahim, he said, well, if you like Dollar Brand, you need to learn about Thelonious Monk. Because then next you need to learn about the pianist Duke Ellington, not the composer. Because the pianist Ellington is an influence on Abdullah Ibrahim. So I had the chance to be initiated into this music by somebody who really knew. I mean, this guy he knew, the history of jazz inside out.
Oh,
so he took me through all of it, and through all of the, obviously the big names, but I've learned from him the secondary ones, Jimmy Rolls. I mean, we're talking, now we're going, really deep. So Dodo Marmarosa. I mean, we go.
Oh yeah, shit. Small, really underrated. Yeah. So,
I had the luck to, not only learn about Bud Powell and, about the important musicians that changed the music, but also about all these hundreds of people around.
Yeah.
So by the time I moved to New York, I was I really knew about the history of the music. So, you know, one of my favorite albums still stays with me, even though it's the duets that Ray Brown did with Jimmy Rose. There's 2 albums.
I have to check that out. Don't know this one.
Yeah,
Wow.
And there's another one that this one is for Blanton. Also kind of underrated and not very spoken about. There's a duet between Ellington and Ray Brown.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah, it's called This One Is for Blanton, for Jimmy Blanton.
Yeah.
And it was put out on Pablo Records. You know?
Okay, yeah, Pablo, yeah, sure.
So I had the luck to be initiated in this music, you know, before moving to New York, where I encountered the real deal, the real world, to put it this way, in a way. You know.
Wow. How did this move to New York? I mean, I know you studied at the New School, right? I think. Or
yes, that's how I got into the States.
How was this first impression of New York for you when you came there, like from Romania? I mean, okay, you knew about jazz, but like culturally, I mean,
I already, by that time, I had a career going on in Romania. I had a group.
Right, okay.
I was studying. Actually, I was studying at Bucharest Academy of Music, but I was studying composition. We studied with and jazz. There was a newly founded jazz department, very small, at the Bucharest Academy of Music, and I was part of the first class that got into it in '94.
Wow!
But at the same time, I studied composition with one of Romania's greatest contemporary classical composers, Anatol Vieru. He's one of the very renowned even in America and here, part of the great generation of 1960s, 70s contemporary composers in Europe. He was a student of Tchaikovsky, so it was. I had a great composition teacher, but I was already in love with jazz. So I had a group, and I did my first album, and I was touring constantly in Romania. I was doing very well, actually, playing jazz, and I wanted more. So
that's why then decision to go to New York happened.
Yes, I really wanted more. This it built in me, you know. And I did a trip to New York in '96.
Okay.
And then I stayed for like 2-3 weeks, and then I did another trip in '98 in New York, and then I said, next time I'm coming, I'm staying. And it was like this, and I applied to New School. I remember this was during the time of dial-up internet, if you even know what is that.
Sure. I still remember that, and then it went down.
Exactly. So I was communicating with this wonderful lady at New School, and with Martin Mueller, and sent them my album and some of my composition, and they said, "Yeah, we would love to have you." You know.
Oh, wow.
So that was the way for me to come, and I sold my. I had only one thing in Romania. I inherited an apartment. I sold it to move to America, basically.
Oh wow, man!
Yeah, because I had no money.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and I got a scholarship, but it didn't cover everything. And
sure.
All of that, you know. So I basically transferred, and I came to New York to this, and I only did 2 years, and then I already graduated because I transferred some of my grades from Bucharest Academy, and after even starting from the first year, I started playing around in New York. And then a colleague of mine, alto player, introduced me to Alex Harding.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, how did story happen with Alex, actually? Yeah.
So in '98, when I came to New York, I actually went to listen at Fez Cafe to Sun Ra Orchestra, who's a hero of mine, Sun Ra, and the orchestra. And there it was, Alex was playing with Sun Ra Orchestra, and they came, I remember, I will never forget this. So we were in the basement, and they were coming from the kitchen and to go to the stage, you know, playing, you know, Sun Ra, it's a show. It was everything. And, you know, it had all this Afro-futuristic thing to it, you know, the whole Sun Ra universe. For me, who was, you know, coming from Eastern Europe, it was, you know, it was quite a thing, you know. So just to see these people coming to, and it was so raw, and so the music was. I mean, I don't have to tell you, it's brilliant, Sunrun, the way he composed, you know, and the way he played with these people, you know, it's so. So Alex was there, so I knew about him, you know, and when Erik Torrente, my colleague from New School, said, "Let's go on Lower East Side. There's this saxophone player you would love." So I remember, I remember the place. It was called Pink Pony. I don't know if you ever played there at Pink Pony.
No.
It was on Ludlow, and it was a bar in front and a room in the back. And this was part of, you know, the late 90s era. Yeah. I moved to 98 to New York, early 2000, where there were a lot of venues. So this was Pink Pony, like Internet Cafe. You remember Internet Cafe?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
You know, along with the, you know, the more established one, the Knitting Factory, the Zinc, but you had Cavejas and all these.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's where I heard, and when I saw Alex, I know Alex from Sunrise, and we talked after, and I said I would love to play with you. I dared to ask him. I remember I was a student, and Alex is such a generous person. He says, "Yeah, man, of course. Yeah, let's do it immediately." So the one that introduced me to the scene was Alex, actually. So so Alex was, you know, by that time he was working with everybody, with Julius Hemphill, with David Maurer. Yeah. So, and he was so supportive, and I remember he did a trio recording of his trio for Simp Records, and he recorded some of my tunes.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
On his trio, and then the guy there, Bob Rouge, asked him, "So who's this Lucian Ban that you're playing his tunes?" And Alex said, "You should record this new pianist. I have my friend of mine is from France. He thought I'm from France, you know." He's from, and I remember, no, I'm not from France. It's close by, but it's
kind of is,
it's Europe. You should record him. And so actually, Alex not only introduced me to everybody. Through Alex, I met Bob Stewart, and I recorded with him and played with him, and we did our Tuba project. Yeah. Through Alex, I started playing with Barry Altschul.
Really, I didn't know that you played with Barry. Really?
Yeah, and this was a dream of mine because Barry was the drummer in the other pianist that is one of my biggest influences, Paul Bley.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So I had a trio. I have a bunch of recordings. I worked with Barry quite a lot in quartets, quintets, and I had a trio with him, with me, him, and either Mark Elias or Brad Jones on bass.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of concerts recorded. And,
oh man, you should put this out somehow on Bandcamp at least or something.
I should.
Yeah. Oh, gee.
I did. I remember I did one of the weeks at the Stone when that was curated by Bruce Gallanter from Downtown Music Gallery.
Yeah.
And he invited me to play, and I played with like several nights with Barry Altschul in several combinations, like trio, quartet. I had a quartet with him and Sam Newsom, and another one with Jorge Sylvester, if you know Jorge.
No, don't know.
Jorge Sylvester, the alto player, killer one. And so Alex was the one who introduced me to all these guys. I have to really acknowledge him and actually, thank him, because I was just one of the 100 students that was around trying to play in New York. But Alex was so instrumental to me, and we had a quintet, and then we had a sort of a residency at Cavejas, which allowed us to invite a lot of people. I can't even remember who were the people who passed through that band, from Art Baron, Josh Roseman, bass, Chris Dahlgren, Brad Jones, Mark Elias. Who else did I play? Then drummers, Verona Clough.
Oh, really? Oh man!
Yes, yeah. That's when I first started playing with Nasheed Waits in that era, and then through Alex, actually, I got to know all these people, and Sam Newsom, and then I went on and have, other, Bruce Cox, my first European tours, Hill Green on bass. And I could go on and on. These were all through Alex, and actually Alex got my first recording, my first.
That's something holy that you did, like.
With him, the duet.
The duet.
And then we did I did a quintet with him, and if you very few people know about this because the duet got more attention, but on the same session when we went up, we also recorded a quintet, which Simp released a year later. This was a quintet with Alex, Erik Torrente on alto, Chris Dahlgren on bass, and Damion Reid.
That Premonition, right? That's Premonition.
Yes, that's
I love that one. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, thank you. You're one of the few ones who knows about.
No, I think I have that one on MP3. I don't know how I got it years ago somehow.
So not many people know about. And then I did a quintet for him with tuba project with Bob Stewart, Derek Phillips, Alex, and J.D. Allen.
Yeah.
Amazing. So all of these people, I met them through Alex, and then I kept working with Alex. Yeah. I was the pianist on his quartet album that it's kind of unknown because it's on that Norwegian label Jazzaway. It's called Blutopia with Nasheed Waits, Brad Jones.
Really? Oh man.
Yeah. That's one of the best. I'm so proud about that.
Man, if you have it, please send it to me.
I can. Yeah, I can. I have it MP3.
I'd love to. If you have an MP3. No. I would love to hear it. I mean, wow.
Yes, I would. Yeah. It's one of the albums I'm mostly proud of. And I did also for this label. Very good guy. His name was John Klette in Norway, alto player. He recorded a lot of the late Sonny Simmons.
Yeah, I love Sonny. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so he recorded the late Sonny Simmons, was documented by Jazzaway Records. But he put out, I would say, like 40, 50 albums. And then, unfortunately, he died, like 3-4 years ago. And the label folded. I don't even know what happened with the label.
Oh, man.
Who owns. And so you cannot find his CDs anymore. Maybe you can find it on Spotify or some stuff.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, where it ends, and I'm not sure if anybody's getting any royalties or anything, because John Klette was very open. I remember we talked to him, and he literally sent us like, I think 10 grants or 12 grants to record 2 albums for him.
Wow, man.
Paid the musicians, booked the studio, and we did it at Systems 2.
That's rare.
2 days, like nice conditions and all of that. So I would say Alex Harding, it was and is, along with Matt Maneri, one of my most important collaborations here. And then there's others. Then I developed other ones like with Abraham Burton. And,
I wanted to ask you about Abraham also, because I listened to Blacksalt the other day, and it's so beautiful how you keep developing your language, you guys, like. Especially with Erik and John, it's just, that's another story. Since Elevation, in Songs from Afar, but how does your story with Abraham begin also?
Yes, yeah.
When did your story with Abraham begin?
So, for like 4 years, I was, you probably don't know this, I was the booker for Kave House.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that. Wow.
When Kave House, not the old one when it was in Soho, but the one on 29th Street. Mm-hmm. So I was playing there. I think weekly. Once I had a gig, and I was trying all kinds. I was having my time basically.
Sure.
So that's when Bruce Cox played with us with the quintet I had with Alex, and then Bruce asked me to book him, and he came in with his quartet with Abraham, and I so much loved Abraham's playing and melodic sense and sound that I talked to him and I said, "Man, I would love to do something," and then we did something, and Abraham loved my writing so much, and he said, "Luch, this is it. Let's do it, and I want to do it, and I want to do it, and I want to record." And then that's how Elevation came out, and that's how the duo came. And then we did some amazing duo shows. We played at Dizzy, if you can imagine.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
As a duo. Wow.
Yeah, as a duo, and also with Elevation. And then we did the first album was a live one, I recorded at Cornelia Street Cafe. And that got a lot of, I remember in that year, a lot of Jazz Journalists Association, a lot of the critics put it in their best of. So, and then the second album with Elevation was a downbeat album of the year. With, Songs from Afar.
From Afar, yeah.
Yeah, I got the, the 5-star fancy thing. So so all of this helped to give more exposure to the band. And then because Abraham and I had such a good chemistry, and we started playing duos in various rooms in New York, and then we started touring Europe. And many times it was easier to tour as a duo than as a quartet. Yeah, but I did a lot of touring with Elevation in Europe, and some John and Erik couldn't do it because they were so busy with Fred Hirsch.
Yeah. So
I had to, if I can put it this way, I had to be satisfied with Nasheed or.
Yeah, come on.
So that was of course it was a joke because it was
such an honor come on
with Nasheed, but Verona Klaff did it once.
Really? Oh man!
Yes.
Wow.
Derek Phillips, you know Derek Phillips?
Sure, I know Derek. Yeah.
Derek Phillips did it once. Brad Jones did it other times.
How was it with Verone? I mean, he's such an amazing, underrated player. I mean, yeah, that's what I mean.
Nobody plays like him.
Yeah.
I love him. He's such an original.
Yeah.
He plays drums like nobody else. It's like when you think it's like Paul Motion. Nobody plays like Paul Motion.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of the same with Verone. So I always loved playing with Verone. And a lot of Drew Gress played that band sometimes.
Wow, man.
So Elevation. So. And I want to do another one, obviously. I hope, but again, pandemic appended all of that,
Yeah.
So these are like working bands, and the duet with Abraham, I just talked to him. We miss playing. We were doing like 15 dates tours and 15, 20 concert dates tour in Europe, which are long now.
That's really long now. Yeah, that's really long.
Yeah, yes. But we were doing those because it was easier as a duo, basically, the logistics and the economics of it. So we were able to book club and venue after venue because we just didn't need that much of a budget, and we just had a good chemistry. And man, I remember I played in Austria with the Elevation. I played that place. I don't know because maybe you know it, Bad Ischl.
Bad Ischl, sure. I played there with Emilian. Jazz Freunde, sure. I played there.
Exactly. So Elevation played there, if you can imagine.
Really? Oh man, that's beautiful. It's such a cool place. You played in that weird house with that house with all the installations and that's incredible.
Yes. So we did a lot of touring with Elevation as well, but and with the duo, and I'm just hoping to be able to do it. And but in the past year, right before the pandemic started, I was a lot doing the stuff with Matt, and we did the Enesco stuff, and then we did the opera. After I did in 2009, I did the Enesco Reimagine thing when I met Matt for the first time and started working with John actually for the first time, and Gerald Cleaver was there, and Tony Malaby, Ralph Alessi. After that, because that album sort of was the first time that the stuff I was doing was getting some attention.
Real exposure, I think so too.
It had to do with the fact that it was Jorge Enesco, a classical composer. And then, I forgot to say, in that band we had Badal Roy on top.
Yeah.
So it was,
By the way, how did Badal end in that band? I really wanted to ask you that. Speaking of which, because
with Badal, it's an older story actually. So Badal, this is an older story. So when I was playing in Bucharest and before I moved to America, one of the guys that came to all of my shows there was an Indian guy that was working for an advertising. He was heading a big advertising agency in Romania, one of the big ones. Really, one of the big ones that has it's in one of the high rises in Midtown. Sure. So he was running the Romanian chapter of it, and he loved jazz. He was Indian from England, and he came to all our shows, and he knew Badal. And I had a crazy plan when it was the solar eclipse. Remember, there was a solar eclipse, I think, in 96, 97?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
So I wanted to invite to Bucharest for the solar eclipse Badal Roy and Pharoah Sanders to play with me. Of course, I was arrogant like a motherfucker.
That's a good plan. But come on, good plan.
But the guys were, so this Indian friend of mine, Ashish Banerjee, I call him, made the contact with Badal, and then Badal made the contact with Pharoah, because Badal worked with Pharoah Sanders. Yeah. And they said, yeah, we will come. If you get the money, and we will come, I couldn't get the money. The sponsor fell apart. This is one of the things that I regret not happening, because then it never happened. But when I came to New York, in the first week, two things happened. First of all, in order to come to new school, you had to pay a deposit, which my friend, the Indian, paid, and he never wanted to get back. It was my support for your. And then second thing, I did not know anybody. He arranged me to go to a party at Badal's home. This is first week. And I'm going to Badal home in New Jersey, and there's Ornette Coleman, Pharoah Sanders, Anton Ronnie, and all these people that I'm like, okay, and they were so nice with me, but and I'll never forget, I got to speak with Pharoah, and it was so this is the story with Badal. Now the story with Badal, that's how I knew Badal, and he was very welcoming to me. Badal invited me, and then I kept going to him and playing with him while I was trying to figure out what to do here. I was at new school, not knowing anybody actually, aside from my colleagues, but even the colleagues were new. But in that first month, I was jamming at home with Badal Roy, piano and tabla. He was, so that was, so I had a connection with Badal. And then when I did this, I got this commissioning for Enesco. And John and Hebert and me I asked John, can you help me put it together? And who should we get? And then that's how we got to get Tony, Ralph, Gerald,
everyone.
Matt instead of Erik Freelander. And then I'm looking at this band, and I said, oh, damn, this is going to be some really abstract, heavy stuff. A classical composer, you get this avant-garde musicians almost. This is going to be too heavy. Let me get somebody who's going to bring some earthiness. And I always wanted to play with, who in a way is the opposite of them. Because Badal is so warm and so groove-oriented. And so he had to change that, 20th century classical music, And it was, I think, and all of these guys told me before, it was a strike of genius to bring him, because he changed the project.
Yeah, it's such a nice color. It's such a nice color.
Yes.
Yeah.
He made everything sound, first of all, everything sound more earthy. So you didn't have this downtown, project dealing with a 20th century composer and brainy music. Only cold and improvised and complex and stuff. Secondly, he brought a human warmth. I don't know if you know Badal.
Not personally, no, just music.
Everybody's the type of guy that everybody falls in love with. Is that type, this old school musician that warm, and he pays for everybody, and pays for drinks and food, and he just wants to be around a very social animal. He's part of that older generation.
Yeah,
they were very social, So he changed that project, and then we got to tour with the project a lot. We did some fancy festivals in Europe. We did London Jazz Festival. We did Barcelona Jazz Festival. We played Queen Elizabeth Hall and all. So we did some fancy gigs with this because of having Badal, because of having all these, Raul,
incredible players,
Gerald and Enesco. So a lot of the presenters were intrigued by it, and. Since we did that, I always wanted to do with Matt. We were talking the only opera of Enesco, Oedipe, and it took 10 years to be able to put it together because we couldn't get the funding and we couldn't get
it's a project.
It was complicated. And then finally in 2018, I was able to do it with the occasion of there was a French-Romanian cultural season, and then. You probably know Olivier from Barbès. So Olivier got also for I think a couple of years. He also got hired to be the world and jazz music curator at Opera de Lyon, at Lyon Opera. So, and they became the co-producers. So they put money, and then the cultural put the money, and then because it was in France. It would have been good to have a French musician, and who to get? Luis Clavis.
This is what I wanted to ask you as well. You're like offering this talk is going as if we kind of prepared what we're gonna talk, because that was like, how did the story with Luis?
That's how it happened. So I always wanted to do the opera because it's one of the greatest 20th century operas. It's modern and it's underrated because it's very complicated and it's not seldom produced. The score doesn't even exist published. The score is not published. You can only get it in manuscript, in photocopy, in his writing, which is fucking difficult, because you have that. If I show you a score, give me a moment.
Oh, please. Yeah, I want to see that.
Oh, you're gonna get. Okay. So you see?
Yeah. Wow, man. Oh shit. Oh Jesus Christ. Okay.
Take a look at the writing.
Oh man.
This is 19th century composer writing straight into score, transposed. He's even using the old viola clef from the 19th century and all of that. So this doesn't, and it's how many pages? Let me see. It's 4 acts.
It's thick.
It's 560 pages.
Oh man.
4 acts. It's like, man, you can find it on YouTube to hear. Just put Enesco Oedipe. It's one of the greatest 20th century opera, but it's difficult. It's long. Most opera are 3 acts. This one is 4 acts. And it took us a lot of time to do it. And this was in the same year we did the project. And in the same fall, we did a project with Bartók, with John Surman. 2 weeks later, we premiered the Oedipe at Opera de Lyon.
Oh, wow.
So on that summer, we worked. I remember going to Matt's place in Brooklyn. So I was printing folk songs from Bartók books, which are out of print, but I have them PDFs. They sell for like $800-900 on eBay because they're out of print, the Bartók folk collection. But somehow I got the PDF, so I was printing every time I was printing like 40 pages. Yeah, and Matt and I were playing through them, and then this one yes, this one no, so we were throwing away. And at the same summer, we were working on the opera, which was much more difficult.
Yeah,
and the folk songs were nice. I said, we can do something with this. But the opera was just to try to, to go through all of the music to keep the story, because we had, we still had to do, even though it was a a reinterpretation of
Sure.
the opera. We still did the opera. We did the whole story with Oedip and, you know, all of the acts. And we had Theo Blackman and Jen Shu sing several characters from the opera. It was a very difficult process to do, just to try to find out which musical moments we want.
What to capture, and yeah.
And yeah, I mean, because we wanted to say the story. So sometimes the important moments dramaturgically were not necessarily the music that we liked the most. So we had to it was very difficult to choose the moment, you know, the when Oedip kills his father, when, you know, just to give an example, you know. But it was crazy, and we never rehearsed with everybody. We never rehearsed with everybody, but in Lyon at the sound check the day before.
Bizarre.
So and then the last tour I did before the pandemic was in November with the opera. November in 2019, right before the shit started. Yeah, and we played Beaux-Arts in Brussels. We played Bimhaus. We played Jazz d'Or Festival, the Jazz d'Or in Strasbourg. Yeah. We played Op der Schmelzing Du de Lounge. We played and we recorded the opera at Bimhaus. So that's another project that I have to mix and put out. But it was very difficult. But by the second time, by this tour, it was nice because we sort of fine-tuned what we did at the premiere, and then we encouraged Theo and Jen to act a little.
Oh,
so
wow,
they were actually acting and costuming a little.
Oh,
so
really?
they had some costumes. Yeah. It's and Theo is so playful, and Jen.
Yeah, I see Theo doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you have to see the moment where when Oedip is pulling his eyes out from the legend. Now, check this out. In the second tour, Theo is throwing himself with his legs up in the air on the stage. Yelling, because there's yelling there. Even in the original score, there's yelling.
Oh, wow.
So these Jen as Yocasta is like, no, what did you do? Ah! So there's a whole, we in the band, we barely can contain ourselves. It's this dramatic, tragic moment that we are like John Hebert and Tom Rainey, and we are like laughing because I'll show you some photos or some videos.
Oh man, you have to send me this.
Literally, Theo's like going crazy at the moment. I love it. You know, I mean, it's
he's incredible.
So I'm hoping Matt and I are hoping that we will be able to mix and get this into an album, and maybe even tour if we can dream to something like that. You know, So that's when the pandemic sort of caught me, and then the only thing that I was able to do is after my difficult year with my surgery and everything, I did just to see if I can do it. In May this year, after more than a year of not playing, I took a car from Bucharest and I drove to Timișoara, where I knew these folks, where I recorded with John Surman. Mm-hmm. And I booked this Baroque hall for 3 days. And that same piano that's on the album, it's an amazing Bosendorfer. And I recorded 3 days of solo piano.
Oh, man, beautiful.
So, yeah, this will be my next thing. It's coming. It will be coming out on Sunnyside next year. So,
super.
I'm supposed to mix now at Systems 2 here in New York.
Wow. But Lucian, this and the Barry Altschul tapes, we need that.
Okay.
We need that. Man, we need seriously, come on. You got me excited now. I'm like, man, I need to hear that.
Man, Bruce Gallanter from Downtown Music Gallery, he wanted to release the whole weekend at one point with it wasn't just me, Barry Altschul. There were some other people. I remember doing a duet. I did a duet then with Mark Feldman.
Oh man.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that, that sits there, like most of us,
Yeah, sure.
So.
Man, beautiful. Yeah. Cool. Sir, thanks so much. I will not take more of your time, but thanks so much for sharing all these beautiful stories. And
thank you for, talking to me. It's
so cool.
It's a pleasure. And I know your series is so nice. I mean, every time you put someone up there, it was so nice to listen. And I'm glad I assume you're going to do one with Randy.
Yeah, Randy, I emailed Randy. Thanks for your email. I mean, I've been listening to his music, but he doesn't have a desktop now, so he has just an iPhone. So we kind of said now that when he gets a desktop computer, he can do it. So
why does he need a desktop?
Well, he said he doesn't want to do it on an iPhone because of the quality or something. So maybe you can talk to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll tell him. Listen, I'm doing it on an iPhone. Well, Randy's special in that way.
This is
that way and many other ways.
iPhone. Okay.
I'm on an iPhone.
Oh, come on. Then write to him, please, that we did it on an iPhone. Maybe.
I did not know that he has this problem, this issue.
Yeah.
Well, Randy's special.
Yeah, but still, come on.
I'll tell him, he doesn't need a laptop for this.
We need his story as well on tape,
oh, yeah, Randy's truly special. Talk to him.
Yeah.
I talked to him about how did they get, I was so curious, how did they invented this style with Joe Maneri and Matt, and
it's amazing.
The way they play, because he plays microtonally on drums.
So unique.
He plays. Yeah, it's so unique, and he got this from Joe and Matt, so it's really great that you're talking to him, because Randy's so under the radar. He's never in front, So
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. And I'm hoping to see you soon, and hopefully.
Man, me too. If you're ever.
Dr. Jazz.